You're listening to JTE Movie Thinks. Is that the title? Is that correct grammar? All right, we'll go with it. It's a show about movies and thinking. And now, here's your host, every man's hero, JTE.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of JTE Movie Thinks. Back again with another great guest. I love this show because I love discussing movies that most people don't really discuss. Because a lot of times, the Schmoes have the movies covered. And my guest today has the current movies covered. Chris Stuckmann, welcome to JTE Movie Thinks.
I am very happy to be here on this oddly titled show. I think it's a great title, actually. It's very funny. Every single time I've seen it in the search results, I'm like, what is that? Like, what does that mean? It's because I've seen it show up in my subscription feed. It's really funny.
I love Ken's intro. It pretty much sums it up perfectly.
Right.
JTE Movie Thinks. Is that correct grammar? All right, we'll go with it. All right, Chris, so thanks so much for being on the show.
Yeah, of course, man.
When I heard you were coming to LA, I was like, I gotta get this guy on the show. The fans been asking for it, as usual. I love just talking to my friends, especially I started watching the Schmoes, and I found you right alongside with them because I was actually in South America for a year, everybody. I lived abroad. And the thing I missed the most living in another country, especially because I didn't speak Spanish really when I moved down there, was talking movies with my friends. Mm-hmm. And I kind of started going to the YouTube community to fill that void. And that really is the reason why I'm with the Schmoes in the first place. And when I first met you, I was like, I remember watching this guy when I was in South America. And I definitely, when someone talks about movies, you could tell whether they really know their shit. And where they really have a love for movies. And I think that comes through on your videos.
Thanks, man.
That's how I connect to it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and you, Johns, the Schmoes, getting to meet you guys and talk movies with you guys is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the times that I've met you guys, just the idea of being, I'm in LA obviously right now, and I've gotten to meet so many different people and people I've already met, but see them again and talk movies with them again, because I am actually a huge fan. I'm a fan of all these shows. I listen to so many different podcasts, and I watch so many different movie review shows. So what people always treat me like I'm like this guest, and good. I'm like, no, I'm the one who's honored to be here. I'm the one who's excited to be here. I'm the fan.
You are a fan. Thank you for being a fan of JT Movie Things.
I'm a huge fan of Josh the intern. And
Josh the engineer now.
Josh the engineer, my bad. You're Josh the engineer.
It's okay.
Soon to be Josh soon you're just going to be Jig. Josh the God. That's what you'll be.
Oh, man. That's a dance move. Dance to Jig. All right. So as this show works is, like I said, you and the Schmoes, you guys have the mainstream movies covered. It's your job. You have to review these movies. For this show, I want to talk about movies that you didn't have to watch for a press screening, something you weren't obligated to watch.
Sure.
I want to know, what's the last movie you watched, whether it be, say you're scrolling through Netflix and something catches your eye, or maybe it's one of the favorite films you've seen 100 times,
sure,
and you just pulled it off your Blu-ray shelf, or it's something you just came across flipping the cable channels.
Right.
So I'm going to ask you, Chris Stuckmann, what was the last movie you watched from beginning to end?
So I'm staying with Josh McCougar right now.
Oh, really?
Yep, good buddy.
He's a wild man.
He's very funny. He's a nice guy. A lot more heart than you might think, actually.
Okay.
He's got a lot of heart in that man. Anyway, so he sits me down and he says, all right, I got all these movie channels. If you got any downtime, I got all these movie channels here. Just check them out. So yesterday, we flipped on Men in Black. Now,
okay.
I've seen Men in Black 1,000 times, but I haven't seen it in a long time. It's been quite some time since I've seen Men in Black. And I started watching it, and I forgot how good that movie is.
Really?
I love that movie. Do you not like it?
No, here's the thing. You said it's been a long time since you've seen it.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've seen the movie.
Okay.
Here's what the problem for me, when I'm so tainted by the sequels.
Right.
Because I'm not sure how you feel about, I hated 2.
2 is not good.
2 is not good.
Not good.
3, I saw about half of it on cable, and it looked okay.
3 is also not good.
It's also not good.
I think people were too easy on 3. I think.
Okay.
I said it wasn't good from the get-go, and I think a lot of people were just too easy on that movie.
Yeah, and like I said, I saw some on cable. The only thing I thought that was good in that movie was Brolin's impression of Tommy Lee Jones.
He was excellent, yeah.
He was excellent. All right, so I think my memory is a little tainted from those last 2 movies. Although I will say, I remember seeing Men in Black in theaters. And this was when Will Smith was at the height of his blockbuster career.
Absolutely.
Independence Day was...
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Will Smith.
And it was such a great concept. And it was directed by Barry Levinson, who
Barry
also
Sonnenfeld.
Barry Sonnenfeld.
I believe, yeah.
Wait, what did Levinson do?
I'm pretty sure Barry Levinson did like The Natural.
Who did Good Morning America? Good Morning Vietnam.
I will figure
I think
this
it was
out
Barry.
for you.
I think it was Barry Levinson.
Good Morning Vietnam was directed by Barry Levinson.
Barry
You are
Levinson.
correct.
Okay. And so Barry Sonnenfeld, you're right. No, that is the guy who directed Men in Black. I get those two confused.
Yeah, Barry
Yep.
Sonnenfeld directed Men in Black.
And I remember seeing this movie, and it had that. I believe it was Amblin. Was Spielberg not the executive
Spielberg
producer on
executive
this?
produced it.
Yes.
Yep, he executive produced the movie, and he was heavily involved with the creation of a lot of the creatures
Okay.
by Rick Baker, which are astounding. Rewatching the movie, I was blown away by the level of prosthetics, the makeup. It won Best Makeup Oscar.
Okay.
But for me, like rewatching the movie, I actually forgot how serious it takes itself. If you rewatch this movie tonight,
Interesting.
Josh,
Yeah, okay.
if you go home and rewatch this movie, it starts out and you have like this incredible highway scene with these.
It's like a border patrol scene.
Yes, yeah, you have people and you think they're sneaking in.
Yeah.
And Tommy Lee Jones shows up, derails everything, and he starts sniffing around and he discovers that one of these things is an alien. But there's this great zooming in shot of him where he's like, you have no idea what you're dealing with. And it zooms in on his face, and
Yeah.
the other cops are like, maybe we shouldn't mess with this guy. And from then on, you're into Tommy Lee Jones because he took his role so seriously. It was a role actually written for Clint Eastwood.
Yes, I heard that.
And it was also the juxtaposition with Will Smith, who takes his job seriously as a cop in the movie, but he's also like this fish out of a water type person who doesn't have much in life. He doesn't have many connections, so he's the perfect guy for this organization to
Yep.
come in. And the action in it also is so well handled. Like one of my favorite shots for some reason is this shot of Will Smith. He's running, he's chasing this guy. It starts with this chase.
Yeah,
it
the beginning film, yeah.
It shows how fast of a runner he is. He's
Just raining black
cephalopoid.
eyes.
Yeah, it's just be raining black men in New York.
Yeah.
It's like a cephalopoid or something that he's chasing.
Okay.
He's running, he's chasing. It's this great panning shot, and then he darts backwards and starts going a different direction, and he jumps onto a moving car to get even faster. And it's all done in one shot, and I love the way he approached the action in this movie.
And remind me again, do you remember who the actor was that plays the main villain in this? He's like an insect in a human's body.
Yeah, Vincent D'Onofrio.
Oh, was Vincent?
Yeah.
Wow, really?
Yeah. He plays.
totally forgot
He
that.
plays the bug. Now he's one of my favorite characters.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
My
Holy
mom
crap.
always used to ask me to do imitations of him because I would walk around the house like him,
Mm-hmm.
and the actor himself, he put stilts taped to his legs
Oh, okay.
to create like this really rigid movement, and he does the put my hands on my head. He has like that crazy.
Yeah.
He's sort of like in Daredevil. Wilson Fisk. He's
I was about to say, like, I can't even put those two together.
Right. Wilson Fisk is like, I'm always about to take a breath, but I decide to go back to
Wow.
talking like this. This is my city.
That's pretty good. Harloff has been doing a good impression lately.
Oh,
You guys
okay.
should do like an impression on
We should do.
'cause
Yeah,
That was pretty good.
His impressions are much better than mine, but no, but he was great in this movie, and he took that role super seriously too. Because I actually watched an interview with him. They were talking to him about his acting and everything. He went as far as to watch documentaries about bugs,
Really?
to learn like how bugs think and how they walk and what they do, and like he said he got so bored that he was like, I need to do something else. It was so funny, and so he went in a different direction, but he was fantastic in that role. Very funny.
That's so funny to me because like I remember that character.
Yeah.
I did not remember it was Vincent D'Onofrio.
Sugar water.
Yeah, that really makes me want to go back and revisit it just to see that. So the basic plot is Tommy Lee Jones needs to find a recruit. Mm-hmm. They don't tell you right up front, but he needs someone to replace him.
Right,
So
that's like the big twist.
That's the
of
big thing.
Yeah.
He's getting old. He needs someone to replace him. So the whole thing is, I forget, how does he convince Will Smith's character to join? Does he bring him to the?
What he does is
base?
he meets him in the police department. Will
Okay.
Smith is being questioned about this person who committed suicide by jumping off the building.
Yes, okay.
They're questioning him. Tommy Lee Jones walks in and he's like, they weren't eyes, they were gills. He was out of breath. And he starts talking to Will Smith, super factual like about the fact that something is going on here. Would you like to come with me? He tells him some more things, and then he does the neuralizer, as
Yep.
Will Smith calls it, the flashy thing.
Uh-huh.
You ever flashy thing me, Kay? You ever flashy thing me? Tell me, Kay, did you ever flashy thing me? Yeah. And then eventually he does take him. he gives him a card. He says,
Okay.
"Come here to this place."
Gotcha.
And they do that test, that hilarious test scene where they have like all the best of the military and the army and everyone just in a room, and they give them these pieces of paper, and they all have to figure out how to do the test without a table in front of them.
Oh, okay.
And it's just so funny. And then they do the gun range where there's like cardboard aliens all over the place, and he shoots the one little cardboard girl.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
And he's like, now I saw this guy over here, but he's just working out. Now how angry would I be if someone came in the gym and popped me when I was working out? And he's like, and I saw this one guy over here, and I realized he's not snarling, he's sneezing.
Yeah.
And he like pans down to a tissue, and he's like, now I see this little girl Tiffany here. She's a little girl in the middle of the ghetto. She's walking around with quantum physics books. She's about to start some shit. To me,
oh, man.
Men in Black is such a funny movie.
My
dude.
memory of this movie, like you're bringing up that scene you just brought up, I totally forgot about that
Yeah.
whole training sequence.
It's so good. It's so funny. Everyone's just like, there's no music, there's no dialogue. Everyone's just awkwardly sitting, trying to figure out how to write like their answers, and their pencils are popping through the paper. And he eventually gets up and like takes this huge table and drags it with this high pitched sound back to where he's sitting. He's like, y'all want to get down on this?
I love movies when they kind of show you how someone's different by their smarts.
Right.
There's a great scene in the first Captain America: First Avenger, where he's like, first person to get me that flag at the top of the pole.
Exactly.
Gets to ride back with Harley, well, whatever her name is, Peggy, and all these guys are trying to climb it. They can't do it, and Rogers just pulls the pin out. It falls down. Wraps up the flag. It's just a great way of telling something about that character without.
It's a really good example.
Yeah, really good example. I'm trying to think. Let me ask you this, because I haven't seen the movie so long. How do the effects hold up? Because you said there's a mix of practical and CGI. Do they hold up okay?
Amazingly well.
Wow, okay.
I was blown away. Particularly, there is more practical stuff. Like almost every alien that walks around through the facility is an actual creature.
Is it really?
Yeah. And
man, if that was made today, it would be all CGI.
oh, of course, the twins with the one eye that control the computers, those are real things. The weird like roach-like creatures that pour coffee for Kay, those are all real.
Those guys.
And then the biggest CGI effect is definitely the bug at the very end when he peels off his skin. And it still actually looks pretty good. I mean, for a movie that's almost 20 years old now.
Yeah.
It actually still looks really good, and it's convincing.
One thing that I remember from that movie is the guy's face opens up and there's a little alien.
Yeah.
Like, is that part one, right?
Yeah, and that's practical also.
I love that.
Yeah.
Just shot this little alien inside of like a little control center.
Right.
Inside of like a human's head. I always thought, again, practical.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about practical versus CGI.
Sure.
Because I think CGI is just used way too much these days. I have no problem with CGI. When you want to create the Hulk for the Avengers, I'm totally for it.
Sure.
When you start doing it for things, sometimes I feel like it's just lazy. Trying to think of some examples. Christopher Nolan, and say what you will about Michael Bay, he obviously uses a lot of CGI, but he also tries to do some in-camera stuff when there's action sequences. He actually flips cars, he actually has explosions, and then he adds the Transformers in there, which, I'm not a huge Bay fan. I love his earlier work, but I love when they integrate it that way. I'm trying to think of, Jurassic World's coming out.
Sure.
Those trailers, it's obviously everything is CGI.
It seems like that, yeah.
It totally does. Who knows? Maybe once we see the movie, there'll be some practical. But you still watch that first Jurassic Park movie, and even the CGI, for some reason, for me back then, still looks better than some of the dinosaurs I've seen today.
Some of them, yeah. And
why do you think that is?
Because Spielberg integrated it so well, and he also filmed it in the perfect way. He doesn't have some close-up shot of a camera panning around a CGI dinosaur.
True.
Almost all of the shots are wide, like the Brachiosaurus wide shot, or the establishing shot of the Tyrannosaurus walking out is a wide. It's not some huge, complicated shot. And you don't need that. All the audience, when you first see the Tyrannosaurus Rex, you need a big, wide shot, and you don't need anything else. Let the CGI speak for itself. But there is more practical effects in Jurassic Park, and even in The Lost World, than CGI. And because he understood that, and he almost always had these things interacting with a human being. Like, for instance, the T-Rex's nostril air blowing Alan's hat off. He always had these things interacting with people to help sell
it.
the fact
Yeah.
that these are real living things. And that's one of the things, the same with in Men in Black is that entire sequence you're talking about with the head opening up and the alien. That's a real little animatronic alien that someone is controlling with incredible precision. And it's incredible. I just watched it, like I said yesterday. There's a scene where he's trying to say the galaxy is on Orion's belt, and he keeps stuttering at the B in belt, and you can actually see the little lips like enunciating the B perfectly. It's incredible.
I think back in the day, CGI was like the harder thing to do.
Sure.
So they did as much practical as they could, and they're like, oh, the CGI, it's... Because back then it was just coming into the entertainment industry. Nowadays, I feel like the directors are just getting lazier. Like, throw a green screen on there, we'll do it in post.
I agree with you. And I think the filmmakers that understand it the best are the ones who recognize that CGI that's just CGI is boring. CGI interacting with human beings or interacting with actual objects, you can create some tangible images there that actually work.
One of the first times this kind of thought came to me was Peter Jackson's King Kong. First of all, great effects on Kong. I thought Kong looked great. I think the movie has a lot of CGI, but I was okay with it. I'm around for the ride. The scene that stuck out to me was when they're in the canyon and there's brontosauruses are basically stampeding, like Lion King style. And as Jack Black's running through the legs with Adrian Brody, it looks so fake to me.
Yeah.
And I sat back in the theater, I said to myself, wait a minute, they got this right already in Jurassic Park, like 1 and 2. How are we going backwards now?
Yeah, and that's the exact scene that I would say if someone said, what's the worst CGI in King Kong? That scene right there. And they're all like falling on top of each other, and the dinosaurs are like crashing and falling behind them, and it's like... It's just so obvious that some actors are running around some blue or green room. It's so it's terrible, and it's one of those movies. And that was the first sign that Jackson was going to use too much CGI.
Oh, in the Hobbit
movies was because there was just too much in King Kong.
Well, let me say this for the Hobbit movies. I enjoy them just as entertainment popcorn movies. They're nowhere near as good as Lord of the Rings.
No,
in my opinion.
No.
The last one was huge armies, and a lot of people said it just felt like animated film. It didn't bother me as much because you can't really do that. This ain't Braveheart where you could have like hundreds of extras going around.
Well, see, I feel like they could. I feel like they could afford that kind of thing.
I feel like, well, if it's ogres, well, he did it in the original Lord of the Rings.
Exactly.
So he probably could have done it, but I also understand because it was on such a larger scale of anything of those last other movies, I kind of understand why he would just go CGI. And I didn't think the CGI in those movies were that bad.
The problem is, I think one of the biggest contributing factors is the 3D, and especially the 48 frames per second of the first one.
Never seen a 48 frames.
I saw the first part in 48 frames.
I heard so many bad things.
It's awful. It was terrible. It was one of the worst theater going visual.
3 hours.
I had a migraine from it.
Oh wow.
Now, I think the studios picked up on that because the second two films they did not screen for critics in 48 frames per second. It was just straight up normal 24.
Yeah.
And because the first one they screened it for, and most critics were like, "I hate this. Please don't ever do that again." And I remember people were like, "Oh, it's the technology of the future," and people were like, "Please don't let that be our future."
Well, they said it makes it look like a set, right?
It made it look like a soap opera.
Yeah. Okay. And I heard at times people look like they're wearing costumes because it's just.
Of course.
And let me tell you something. I've worked on movie sets before. I've walked onto a set for a movie and I said, "This looks fake."
Of course, yeah.
And then when I walk over to the monitor where the director is looking at, it looks totally different.
Yeah.
Something happens between the lens.
The director
of
photography, the lighting, the way they angle it and everything, that's all extremely important. But when because that's why when I was a kid making movies when I was 13, I couldn't understand why, even if I had a perfect replica costume of a character, why it just didn't look that good. Because I didn't, when I was 14, I didn't understand. There's lighting, there's frames per second, there's the angle, the lens, all these things that you don't think of when you're 14. That's what they do in these movies, and that's one of the reasons why it just didn't work for the first Hobbit movie.
And a lot of films, these days, everyone's going digital. A few directors actually still stick with film, like Nolan, I know, and Tarantino are two guys who want to stick with film. Spielberg, too. I do feel like you lose something when you go all digital. Something about that film, because of the chemicals, I don't know what kind of movie magic you want to put, science you want to put it to, but I hope to God film never fully goes away. Though it's going that way.
I've never seen more what's the word, deeper black levels in regards to the color of the film in a digital print than I can see in the film.
Good point.
For me, black levels are really important when you're watching
Yes.
a movie. The way the black, if it's as deep and rich of a black as the color is meant to be, you don't always get that with digital. You get a little bit of this gray kind of washed out look. Don't get me wrong, I'm fine with digital. I mean, I think Skyfall was digital, and that was just
great.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
I mean, it was gorgeous. But I always will have a soft spot for film, and no, I do not like going to a movie and seeing the film reel jump when they change it. You know, I like a nice stabilized look.
Yeah.
But because I saw Interstellar in 35 millimeter, so I saw the legit little blotch that appears on the top right screen twice, like they talk about in Fight Club. I could see the frame jump just a slight bit when they changed the reel. There was no penis picture,
Of course.
gratefully no McConaughey penis picture, but
no little Magic Mike splicing in there.
yeah, no, none of that. But so yeah, I don't want that type of jumpy, unstabilized image. I love me some Blu-ray. I love me some digital clarity. But I also really do love the richness that film provides.
Totally agree, man. Real quick, the newest Ninja Turtles movie. Not very good movie.
No.
I went back and rewatched the original. Those guys in the suits, man. I buy that way more than anything. Here's the thing. Maybe if I'm against the whole design of the new Turtles. Number one, they're supposed to be ninjas. You have to, every step they take sounds like you're going to hear it from a mile away because these like big behemoth things. If you're gonna make Ninja Turtles, make them skinny, turtly, kind of like, let them be ninjas. And you go back to those classic movies. Yeah, it is kind of bulky at times, but man, I went back and watched that first film, and I just it holds up.
Sure.
It holds up because you don't have to worry about CGI or any of that stuff. And yeah, there's times where you can tell it's a person in a suit. But if you're invested in a movie and you care what's going on, you kind of just forgive that stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree with you entirely.
This is the I Agree with JT show. I love it.
No, honestly,
I
though,
love it.
like legitimately, I generally, we have the same thoughts on movies most of the time.
Totally agree. You are the only person at the Schmo crew that doesn't hate Drive. I get crap from the whole crew of that. They're like, oh, Drive. Oh, go watch Drive.
Yeah, no, they do the same thing to me.
Yeah, I love that movie, guys. I'm sorry. I remember walking out of the theater with two friends of mine. And it was my friend and his girlfriend. And they said, ooh, that was bad. Wasn't it? And I looked and said, that was the best movie I've seen all year.
Yeah.
And they looked at me like I was crazy.
The exact same thing happened to me. When I left the screening, people were like, that movie wasn't there was no action. There was no, it was too bloody. And I was like, that was a masterpiece. I literally just looked, I was like, that was a masterpiece. And they were like, I don't understand what you mean. I was like, look, guys, you're allowed to have your own opinion. That's fine. But that movie was a freaking masterpiece.
Yeah. When I told them it was probably the best movie I've seen all year, they looked at me like I was a madman.
Yeah.
But listen, some people go to movies just to be entertained.
Sure.
Some people go for it to get a little more out of it.
You can have whatever opinion you want.
Exactly.
But Drive's a masterpiece.
So what year? I'm trying to remember what year Men in Black came out.
1997.
1997. All right, I'm glad you had that ready to go.
I know I'm good with dates. Not as good as Scott
not
Mance.
as good as
Scott
I was
Mance
saying.
is some sort of crazy. Wow, his dates are amazing. He's such a great guy. But I'm better with years. He knows like months and days.
It's funny. I don't remember months and days, but you mentioned a movie. I could tell you where I saw it and like who I was probably with.
I can tell you where I sat in the theater.
Really? Okay,
Yes.
I'm not that good.
I can actually have a visual like impression in my mind of where I was sitting
Where
in the
you're
theater
sitting?
for almost every movie I've ever seen.
I could probably do that for like the last few years, but you go back to the older ones, probably not. So let's go ahead. Will Smith. Let's talk a little bit about his career.
Sure.
He was Mr. 4th of July, Mr. Blockbuster for a while. Unfortunately, I saw Wild Wild West by the same director of Men in Black.
Yeah.
And the director of the sequel, which was not very good. That was definitely a hit. And even Will Smith says in interviews now, it was a mistake. But listen, on paper, I can understand. They had a big hit with Men in Black. You had Kevin Kline. You had this big action, Western, sci-fi, Selma Hayek. So I don't blame him. On paper, it probably looked like a good idea.
Sure.
Then he kind of went to this. He wanted to win an Oscar, which every actor does. I mean, I feel like even Jim Carrey tried to do it. He tried to go that serious route.
Yeah, of course.
It didn't really work out. I love Ali, Michael Mann's film. I think it's a little long, but I think that's probably one of his best performances, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's really good in that movie.
The only other movie that really comes to mind besides that is Pursuit of Happiness. I thought he gave a fantastic performance. Is there any other movies that stick out to you where he just delivered not I say Oscar-worthy, but close to it?
Well, I'm not going to say that this is that movie, but to agree with what you were saying about him trying to get an Oscar, there was also that Legend of Bagger Vance movie.
Yeah,
remember that?
with Matt Damon.
Yeah, and that was another like I'm a serious person.
Yeah.
Let's see, good performance. Well, he's pretty good in 7 Pounds. I don't love the movie.
Never saw that.
I don't love the movie, but he is really good in it.
Okay. Wow, I almost totally forgot about that movie even existed.
Yeah,
until you said it.
There are times where Will Smith does these performances where you can tell that he's kind of being Will Smith.
Oh yeah,
Like,
especially early in his career.
Yeah, it's like he's got his
He's
things.
the Fresh Prince.
I liked him a lot in Focus, actually.
Oh, okay.
I thought he was fine in Focus. But,
I really wish he would have done Django. Even
That-
though I think Jamie Foxx did a great job, I would have been so curious to see him in that kind of movie.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's just that he's like, I want to be the guy who kills the guy.
Yeah,
now you said Ali.
I think he was nominated for that film.
The only other one I could think of where he was pretty good was Enemy of the State.
Yeah, okay.
Enemy of the State, he was
Yeah,
pretty good in that movie.
that was good. Tony Scott, very. I don't know if that was a Don Simpson, Jerry Bruckheimer, but it was definitely a Bruckheimer
Right.
production.
One of Gene Hackman's later roles.
Yeah, which was almost plays the sequel to The Conversation, Francis Ford Coppola film. Have you
Yeah.
ever seen that movie?
Oh, dude, I love The Conversation.
Amazing.
I got the Blu-ray. I showed it to my friends.
Okay.
I tried to tell people about The Conversation.
I saw The Conversation for the first time last year because I was engineering profiles.
Okay.
And they did a Coppola show where
Right.
Coppola called in, which was amazing. And I was like, I've never seen Conversation. Mance, to his credit, brought me the DVD next,
Nice.
week later. I went home, I watched it, and it's just like,
It's really suspenseful, right?
was anybody better than Coppola in the 70s?
Yeah.
I mean, Godfathers, Conversation, Apocalypse Now. I don't think there's ever been one director who had like 4 masterpieces in like 1 decade.
Yeah.
It boggles my mind.
It's pretty crazy.
It's pretty insane. So yeah, and now he's kind of. How would you describe Will Smith's career right now? Because After Earth was obviously a disaster.
Right.
Focus, well, I think was received pretty well. It didn't exactly light the box office up.
Right.
And it's not really something people are really talking about.
It was an all right film.
I feel like
I
it-
think he was good in it.
I feel like it was on Saturday afternoon. I'd watch it and enjoy it.
Yeah,
But
me too.
That's probably all it is. Do you think he's signed up for the Suicide Squad because it was ensemble, and maybe he thought I should just stop trying to do these vehicles, try to actually be part of an ensemble film,
See, that's what
and
I
be
thought.
part of the property?
That's what I thought until
Okay.
I watched actually what you guys posted yesterday. The Schmoes website posted the first set video.
Yeah.
And there's an interview with David Ayer, and he says, it's so nice working with all of these actors coming together. And then he says, led by Will Smith.
So he is the lead in this movie.
And I was like, really?
Really?
I mean, come on. Like, you need to go against that right now. And if
Yeah.
they really are making it like Suicide Squad led by Will Smith, playing Deadshot, I'm like, okay, look, it's entirely possible that he's going to, I guarantee more than likely Will Smith will receive top billing.
Yeah.
You know,
He's the
maybe
biggest
Jared Leto, but
Yeah.
it's just one of those things where I feel like that's what he needs to do. He needs to, and maybe he was trying to do that in Winter's Tale.
Oh God, I
I
never
don't
saw
know,
that.
with that where he was like a demon or Satan or something.
It was a cameo, basically, wasn't it?
He was in 2 scenes.
Oh, okay.
And it just, I don't know. It just, I read an interview with him recently where he said, he was like, my Independence Day days are gone. I'm not
Those big
Mr. Number
budget,
One,
yeah.
super awesome guy.
Okay.
I have a kid. Yeah, he's like, I have kids. I have other things I need to focus on, and that's cool. He can do whatever he wants, really. I don't care.
I mean,
It's
he
just-
passed on Independence Day too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that tells you a lot right there.
Yeah.
And I do think part of it has to be, listen, comic books are so big right now.
Mm-hmm.
If he could attach himself to a DC property, I think it's a little bit of a cushion. It's almost a guaranteed hit, really.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that came into the play of taking the role.
It's possible. That could be.
If you would like to see a sequel to any Will Smith movie, what would you like to see?
Well, not Men in Black.
Not Men in Black 4.
We've got that
Yeah.
already.
Well, let me ask you this. Is there any Will Smith movie out there where you felt like could have used a sequel?
I feel like iRobot was not as good as it could have
Oh.
been. I feel like iRobot. What I would like to see is iRobot remade, completely remade.
Without Will Smith?
I would just like to go back in time and have
Okay.
iRobot be a better movie.
I like that director, Alex Proyas.
Me too. Alex
Yeah.
Proyas. He made Dark City.
City's
And you know what? I don't hate Knowing. I know a lot of people hate Knowing and say it's stupid, but with Nicolas Cage.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Gotcha.
Didn't hate that movie.
It was
There
all right.
there was a lot of really well directed sequences in there. The plane crash sequence was very well directed. The opening with the little girl and scratching on the door and stuff, like there's some good stuff in that movie. It just gets a lot of crap because Nicolas Cage, but I don't know about sequels to a Will Smith movie. I would just like to see iRobot be a better movie.
Can I throw one out there?
Sure.
Bad Boys 3.
Bad Boys 3 could happen.
I would
That's
love
true.
to see. Lawrence hasn't done anything. I think he could use the job.
Yeah.
And I think those movies wrote on their chemistry, which I always thought was great. I really don't care about the plot.
Right.
You don't need to sell me a great plot for part 3. You get these two guys, put them in any kind of action type plot, and I think it would make for a fun movie. Mm-hmm. And maybe you could even play on the fact that they're older now. I mean, listen to Lethal Weapon 4 did it.
Yeah.
And I don't hate Lethal Weapon 4.
It's not a terrible movie. It's just not as good as it could have been.
What, Lethal Weapon 4?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess.
There's too many. One of my biggest gripes with 4 is there's just so many stunt double usages in 4.
Especially for Mel Gibson in the chase scene, right?
Yeah, there's like a shot where it's literally just an obvious stunt guy running. I was like, it looked like he was wearing a Mel Gibson toupee.
Oh, no.
And it was just so bad.
That's the problem. Like, some of these directors who made these movies in the 80s and early 90s, they didn't know there was going to be Blu-ray.
Yeah.
They didn't know there was going to be high-definition TVs. Yep. And you go back and you watch some of these movies, you're like, wow.
There's a shot in Heat.
Okay, I was about to bring one up, but go ahead.
There's a shot in Heat where Al Pacino and his guys break down a door.
Okay.
And they run into... I like Heat a lot, but... It is the most obvious stunt double in a big budget movie I've ever seen of Al Pacino. Whoever broke down that door, and then he literally runs directly into frame.
Wow.
And it's so obviously not Al Pacino.
Oh, that's sad. I gotta rewatch Heat.
I do like that movie a lot, though. It's a great movie.
Heat's one of my all-time faves. Face Off.
What about Face Off?
There's a scene where a boat hits at the very end of the movie.
Oh God!
And it flips. And not only do they look at the camera, it's in slow motion.
Yep, that is the worst.
So,
you might be right. That might be worse than Heat. I know exactly the shot you're talking about.
It's literally a guy looking at the camera like, whoa.
I think I know. Yeah, that might actually be worse than Heat.
I remember seeing it in theaters, and I think I was like, okay, those were probably stunt guys. Obviously, they had to been. But it wasn't until I revisited on Blu-ray where I was like, holy crap. It's not even it's not even close to hiding it anymore.
So bad.
Because I really do feel like sometimes when you transition from that film, which does have a softer look, especially when you see it in theaters, to HD now, it's just everything's so crystal clear.
You're right.
You can see all the little details. You can see all the, there's other movies I'm sure that I could throw out there, but that's the one that sticks in my head. I'm going to look out for that Heat one next time I watch it, though.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll tell you that much. Let's say one other thing about Will Smith. Do you think he could go back to being Mr. July? Do you think?
I don't think he should really. I feel like he should just make good movies with good characters and not focus on the money, the budget, what it's going to do for his career, because the guy's filthy rich. He's filthy famous.
You don't think he could balance those two though? Because some, like look at Clooney, he's doing Tomorrowland.
Sure.
Then he do something like Monuments Men, which I don't think it turned out good, but it was trying to be an award film.
Yeah. No, I mean,
DiCaprio has done a pretty good job of that.
Mm-hmm. Focus is a small movie, really.
Yeah, it really is.
That he did already, and it wasn't a great movie, but I thought it was a good movie overall. I just feel like actors focus too much on things that studios or agents might tell them. Like, you need to do this to appeal to this, and you need to do this to appeal to this. And I just say, look for good scripts that have good characters and try to make them.
Totally agree with you, man. All right, so one last thing about Men in Black. What would you give it, now that you revisited it, what would you give it as a rating? What's the Stuckmann rating? You use the A, B+.
Yeah, Men in Black's an A for me.
It's a straight up A?
Yes, it's not A+. There's a few random moments that just aren't, like, there's a scene in the beginning where Will Smith walks into Men in Black facilities.
Yeah.
He's going to, like, say, hey, I'm going to take the job. And Tommy Lee Jones is just in the elevator. And I'm like, were you just standing inside that elevator for 7 hours waiting for Will Smith to come? So just little moments like that don't make it a perfect movie. But for what it's going for in regards to like a sci-fi comedy, also a buddy comedy. A lot of people don't call it that, but it is a buddy movie in a way. It's two guys learning how to interact with each other. And for what it did, I think it almost did it perfectly.
And it does have some touching moments into it with Tommy Lee Jones towards the end.
I think you should rewatch it.
I am. I'm going to rewatch it. Because some of the things you brought up, I just honestly totally forgot.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think I was burnt by the sequel so bad.
Right.
I knew the first one wasn't bad, but I kind of lumped it in with the other ones.
Yeah.
So it's something I'm going to have to revisit. Thanks, Chris. That was great.
Sure.
Men in Black. We are going to end the show like I always do. called JTE Quick Thinks. Basically, I tweeted out for the show, and Stuckmann retweeted me here. Oh man, we got some good ones. Basically, I had to ask you guys, what's the last movie you watched? And we're just going to give you a couple quick thoughts. Tell you whether we liked them, we hated them, or whether we never saw them. Okay, here's one from Twit Wang. All right. Hendosnine. I can't pronounce these Twitter names. They're so hard. Here's an interesting one. The Animatrix, which was released between, I believe, The Matrix and Matrix Reloaded?
Yeah, I actually have. I just bought that at home. I want to rewatch
Really?
it. Yeah, I just bought it probably about 2 weeks ago before I came here.
Wow, crazy.
I remember really liking it when I was a kid. It was just, it's like a string of short anime films from different anime directors that all are around the Matrix in some way.
Which is something they've done for other movies too. I think even Batman did that. From one of the Batman films, there was like an
was
animated.
it Gotham Knight?
Yes.
Was it Gotham Knight that did a whole bunch of different?
Yeah,
things?
so it was like in between like Begins and Dark Knight.
I think that was my first encounter with the character of Deadshot. Deadshot's in one of those.
Oh yes, yeah, you're right. You're correct. Yeah, listen, I like the movie. I mean, it was good. But again, it's supplemental. It's not something you have to watch, and I really feel like you kind of have to be an anime to really get
which
it all.
I am. So.
Which you are. I am not a huge anime guy. I've seen some anime films like the Ninja Scroll, Akira.
Ninja Scroll's pretty cool.
Ninja Scroll's great.
Akira's awesome.
Akira's kind of like the one everyone talks about when you talk anime.
Akira and Ghost in the Shell.
Like you, I probably would like to revisit it, and I kind of need to revisit the sequels because I know they're not good.
Yeah.
But I don't like the prequels to Star Wars, and I revisited those recently just because I needed to wrap my head around it. Here's a great one. This is one of my favorite movies, actually, from Stansfield at Astor Phoenix 72, the original Old Boy.
Nice. Yeah, that's a great one.
Love that movie. I saw this in Florida at our house theater while I was in college. And I'll never forget because me and my friend went, and everyone in there was like over 50. For some reason, they brought in the old audience.
Weird.
Don't ask me why.
Old Boy?
Yeah, Old Boy. They really read that title. And I remember when the ending, I'm not going to say because I want to remember for people who haven't seen it, but once the twist comes, I looked at my friend with my mouth agape. And I stopped looking at him, and I started looking at all the people that were watching me with me. Because in the theater I was at, you sit at like almost dinner tables. It was like this real fancy like dinner in a movie kind of thing. And these people around me couldn't believe what was going on.
Yeah.
The remake, did not like.
I didn't like it either. But I watched the first one at home.
Okay.
And I didn't know what the twist was. I knew there was a twist. I knew there was a big hallway fight scene and everything, you know.
Oh, great scene.
Which was very cool, even though you can kind of see some of the fake hits where they're doing some shadow boxing. But the ending blew me away. It was a fantastic, disturbing, sick, awesome ending.
Great movie. Foreign films, people, don't be shy to watch foreign movies. You'll get used to subtitles. When a movie's great, subtitles go away.
Yeah,
it just becomes second nature.
It blurs into the background.
Exactly. Here's another great movie, Ahmed Behani. I swear, I get the hardest names. It's like they know I'm going to read their tweets. The Usual Suspects, Bryan Singer's breakout film. This is one of those movies, I'm curious, can you go back watching it knowing the twist without saying what it is? Does that affect your rewatching of the movies? Because I've had people tell me they didn't enjoy it as much revisiting it because you know the twist.
I don't love Usual Suspects.
Okay.
Yeah,
you're one of those people. All right.
I don't hate it or dislike it either.
Gotcha. Okay.
I've never really thought that it was like the perfect movie that a lot of people say it is.
Okay.
I think that it has great acting. I like Bryan Singer's approach to storytelling in it. It's kind of broken and fragmented, which is really cool. I just wasn't really that interested in the movie when I watched it. For some reason,
really,
I couldn't
you mean like the first time you watched it?
Yeah, I just couldn't really. I didn't love the movie. I gotta be honest.
I really like the movie. I think the cast for me is a big part of why the movie works.
Sure.
I think the chemistry between all the actors is so good. Benicio del Toro, even the Baldwin, Stephen Baldwin, even does a good job.
Oh, he's great in the movie.
Yeah, he's good. And while I do know the twist, I can enjoy the movie just for that team dynamic.
Sure.
For me.
It might have affected me that I knew the twist before I saw it.
Oh, really? For the first time?
So
see, I could totally see that.
It might have affected me, yeah.
Okay, wow, that's rough. Did you see Scary Movie? Is that why?
No,
I
saw Scary Movie, yeah, but I don't think I connected the dots. I knew of it because people would always quote it. So. Gotcha.
All right, here's one I'm curious to hear what you think of from Adele at that creepy Twitter handle. War of the Worlds, the Tom Cruise edition.
Sure.
Spielberg Cruise edition.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on this movie?
I enjoy it.
Okay.
I enjoy the movie. I don't. People get so bent out of shape over everything. You know,
Over aliens taking over there.
yeah, it's aliens. Shut the hell up. No, I like that movie. It is my main problem with that movie is the brother played by
The brother.
yeah.
Oh, you're talking about the
older-
son.
older
Yeah,
brother.
the son and brother. Okay.
Yeah, the older son played by the guy who plays Justin Chatwin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Dragon Ball Evolution, worst movie ever. He played Goku, and it's not because it's not because of that. It's I feel like you could actually remove his character from the movie, and the movie would not change. And it also has removing his character from the movie also removes the stupid hug ending.
Yes.
That doesn't make sense.
Well, that's
because
Spielberg's thing. He always ends
you
with
could
a
have
happy
had
note.
that with the daughter. You could have had it with the daughter. You could have taken the daughter and him and made them more at odds, because the movie at the end of the day is really about a father and daughter trying to make it through something.
True.
It's almost like halfway through the movie, Spielberg was like, we don't want to deal with this storyline anymore. Just go away.
Yeah, they just go run somewhere. And listen, I am going to spoil this movie because I think most people have seen it.
Yeah.
I feel like this son should have died.
I agree.
When he came back, it was like, what the hell did he come from? Like, really?
He
ran into a ball of fire.
Yeah. With like 5 tanks and UFOs.
Okay. This is an interesting one from Maddie Nagy. Maddie Nagy. This is a film I haven't seen since theaters that I want to revisit.
Okay.
American Hustle.
Okay. Yeah.
This was a film that, for a lot of film geeks and a lot of film enthusiasts, kind of split on.
I noticed that.
I think it was maybe there was a lot of hype going into it with that cast. I watched this directly after watching Wolf of Wall Street.
Interesting.
And I think that might have affected the way I took the movie on. Usually I don't see movies back to back, but it just happened. I saw Wolf of Wall Street at an early screening, and the theater right next to me was playing American Hustle. And me and my friends were like, fuck it, let's do it.
Okay.
And I enjoyed the movie. I think Christian Bale gives a great performance, but the movie's tone felt a little off to me. I know I probably watched your review when it first came out, but I don't remember exactly what your take was.
I loved it. I
loved it?
I loved it.
Wow,
yeah.
okay.
It was one of my favorites of the year.
Holy crap, okay.
I thought that it was a movie that had such like unbridled energy. That's one of the things I love about it.
I'll give you that.
It may have affected you that you went straight from a movie that was so energetic, even more energetic than American Hustle, with Leonardo DiCaprio taking coke off of a girl's butt. Like, I mean, you can't get more energetic than that.
No, I totally agree.
So, but no, I love the performances. I loved how it just felt so in the moment, that movie, and the acting was so great. And Jennifer Lawrence, oh my God, and Amy Adams, these 2 beautiful actresses, giving really good performances, and Bradley Cooper and Christian Bale.
Did you feel like some of the humor was a little bit too much at times, especially with the Bradley Cooper character?
I loved it. I honestly loved it.
Okay.
I loved it.
Very interesting. I recently picked it up really cheap on Blu-ray at a store in LA called Amoeba.
Yeah,
I believe you were just at.
I was just there yesterday, and I was there for 2 straight hours, just like, and I still only looked at maybe half the store, dude. Like, I'm sure you live here, so, but I was just like, I can't get out of here. Like, there's so, and I was spending so much money, and it was bad.
Guys, we are coming to LA. Come to Amoeba, but leave your wallet at home and only bring a certain amount of money with you.
Go to Amoeba Music, take like $50, and that's probably all you should spend.
All right, we're going to go out with the last one here. I'm going to pick the hardest name I could find. It's Yaciel Romero, at Yaciel Maria. I don't know how to pronounce it. He says Fargo, the Coen Brothers film. It's the last movie he watched. What's your take on it? First of all, are you a big Coen Brothers fan?
I like some of their movies a lot, and some of them are okay.
Is that comedy and drama for you? Because for me, not a huge fan of their comedies. Love their dramas.
I love No Country for Old Men. Give me some Coen
True
Brothers.
Grit.
True Grit was awesome.
Blood Simple?
I actually have not seen Blood Simple.
Okay, very good.
So,
Fargo. Let's talk about
Fargo's a very good movie. Fargo's a good movie. It's a movie that I don't love it. Like, people talk about the movie like it's the next coming of Jesus, and he's coming down from heavens and he's holding Fargo. Like people talk about but I do like Fargo. I think it has great acting, and I think it has a really interesting story. But it's and Frances McDormand with what does she always say, the Canadian thing?
Like, oh shucks.
No,
I don't know. I can't remember what it was.
No, it's not. Oh shucks.
It's something like that. Something very Fargo.
Yeah. And okay. My favorite part of Fargo is William H. Macy.
Yeah,
I think he is just brilliant in that movie, and I love his character. I love the things that he does, the situations he gets in. I just don't love the movie. I like the movie.
Okay, let me ask you a good question. Did you see the show on FX last year?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
I highly, highly, highly recommend you watch it because
So I
it's
hear.
not just a retelling.
So I hear.
It's a totally different story, but in the same setting. And Billy Bob Thornton is the best he's been in years.
Okay.
I mean, like, I was skeptical going in because I like Fargo. I think it's a great movie.
Sure.
And I was like, are we really just going to make a show on, like, everything now? But it was so well done, and it tells a different story, and I can't really get into it because I want you to experience it on your own.
Yeah.
But I highly recommend checking out Fargo. You like True Detective?
I loved True Detective.
Fargo is doing the same thing. One season is self-contained.
Okay, so it's a story
It's
and
a
then
story.
it actually
It
ends.
has an ending.
See, that makes me more interested.
That's what made me go see it in the first place. Because I was like, I don't want to really get to a whole other series where I have to follow every week. I have enough
Yeah,
shows like that.
right.
Fargo they're taking the True Detective template. It's a beginning, middle, end. When the season ends, you're done.
I was trying to look up the Fargo Canadian quote, but the internet in here is terrible.
Yeah, sorry guys, the internet here is pretty bad.
So.
All right, guys, that's gonna do it. Thank you so much for tweeting in. Thank you so much, Chris, for coming on my show.
Of course, man. I had a great time.
We got to think of movies pretty well here today.
I think of films a lot.
Tell them where they can find you on YouTube and social media.
YouTube.com/Chris Stuckmann with 2 N's and Chris_Stuckmann also with 2 N's on Twitter. If you want to yell at me and tell me I'm stupid, I'm there. And yeah, thanks for having me on, buddy.
Thanks, guys. You can catch me at Schmoes JTE. That is for Twitter and Periscope and Instagram. Also, don't forget to check me out on Schmoes Know every Thursday, 6 to 8. I'm engineering. I also host a show every Monday called Box Office Breakdown with the former Bobby Finstock, now Tom Dagnino, and Sarah Stratton. Every Monday, we just break down the numbers and talk about what we think is going to happen next week. It's a pretty fun show. It's not just numbers talk. We have a really good time with that show. Listen, as a movie fan, I'm not the first person going to run and listen to a box office podcast. So we do our best to make it as entertaining as possible. So please check it out. Also, if you're on iTunes, leave a little review. I don't care if it's one sentence, just put an exclamation mark. It counts. And if you feel like I gave you a 5-star podcast, go ahead and give me a 5-star rating.
I feel like you gave me a 5-star podcast. I really do.
Thank you. Chris Stuckmann. I've been Stuckmann. So, all right, guys. Thanks so much, and keep watching those movies.